What is happening, everybody? Trey here, joined as always by my dad Sean, and today we got Oasis for the first time up on the channel. We're going to be doing a review of their most famous record, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the Story? Morning Glory. This comes courtesy of a suggestion from our patron Matthew. Matthew, appreciate you.
Matthew's brought us a lot of good stuff over the last 6 months, for sure.
And this one was a fun one. We've had so many requests for it, so I'm glad we were finally able to sit down and dive into this album. Before we get to the quick facts and the track-by-track review, just want to say, if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload every single day. And also, if you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. That helps us out.
Exactly. And if you're interested in supporting us in any manner, even $1 a month helps out. Check out our Patreon page below. Also check out our Facebook group. Have nearly 200 members. Talk about great music stuff every single day. Check out our Instagram page. But Trey, all that to say, let's get into this.
Let's do it, man.
Very influential album. Decently long album, over 50 minutes long. It was their second studio album, released in October of 1995. This was the album that put them over. They're kind of known as a British, Brit pop indie group. This made them a worldwide phenomenon. And even though the Gallagher brothers, the fractures had already started, they were not getting along. Everyone said that the studio experience was the best that they'd ever had. So everything was harmonious. Weller came in and played on a few of the tracks. Everything was going great.
Yeah, I found that interesting since we know how the story ended.
Yeah.
And is currently right now with, just how the friction kind of veered them off the path of, especially with how big they were. And some of these stats are crazy with the tour that was accompanying this record as well.
Yeah, it is.
Over the span of a couple nights, they played in front of 250,000 people, which just, I think, goes to show how unbelievably massive they were. If, they were obviously, I was a wee little lad at this time.
Yeah, you were.
Old.
And I mean, here in the States, they weren't all that over. 2 songs got over, but they weren't, this phenomenon. And in that concert itself, it was at Nebworth. It's believed that approximately 2.5 million people, an estimated 4.4% of the entire UK population at the time, applied for tickets. Unbelievable. Won the Brit Award for Best British Album. It's UK's 5th best-selling album, 3rd best-selling studio album of all time, having sold 5 million copies. Best-selling album of the 90s in the UK, sold over 23 million worldwide. The chart stuff is great in the UK, sold 347,000 copies in its first week. Second fastest album in British history at that time, behind Michael Jackson's Bad. Spent 10 weeks at number 1 in the UK. Number 4 in the US, as we already talked about, making it the band's most commercially successful release. It's 378 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time.
And this was produced by Owen Morris,
yes,
and also Noel Gallagher. And so it's interesting because their first record definitely maybe is a little bit more raw.
Yeah, this one's a lot different.
This uses a technique that some have pointed to as almost starting the loudness war. And the production, once you listen to this record, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a very loud record.
It is the whole way through, man.
You think of almost Phil Spector's Wall of Sound, turn that up to 11 or 12, and that's what you got here. They went with the string arrangements and just some intricate stuff here on the production side of things, and I found it unique too that Noel took kind of the producing on his back.
As well as writing almost every song. So yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. And Trey, before we get into the track by track, there is one more thing on the loudness wars. There was this huge battle with Blur. If you're in the UK, I'm sure, and we're at an age where you remember this. I'm sure you remember this really well because it actually, they said it was on the news every night, not just in the music world, but just period. They were going back and forth with each other, which, as we know, controversy usually leads to popularity. If you can be in the news every night, good or bad, you're going to rise up to popularity. There's a lot of influences on here. There was the theme to the 1970s children program, You and Me, The Beatles, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and the influence of REM's The One I Love on Morning Glory. One song, Step Out, bore such a close resemblance to the song Uptight, Everything's Alright by Stevie Wonder, that it was removed from the album shortly before it was released. So we're going to get into it on a couple of the tracks, but Oasis has taken a lot of heat, I guess Noel Gallagher as much as anything, since he wrote most of the songs, of, how would you put this nicely, Trey? Borrowing music and riffs from other popular music. But let's start this thing out with Hello.
Yeah, so this was interesting to me because it started off almost with the riff from Wonderwall before.
Yes, at least you know it's yourself.
For going into the big drum and distorted guitar sound, kind of you're automatically just thrown into the full loud sound.
Loud. I was going to say, you said loud. The second it comes on, I'm like, I know this is Oasis, and I don't really know much Oasis, but I knew that. Yeah.
And so this was a good one. It touched on a theme that's really prevalent throughout this record about not letting life pass you by and being present in the moment, because the years do indeed fall by like rain, like this song says. So I thought it was a solid opener.
I did too. It's like you said, all I wrote down is it's Oasis sound, the vocals, the guitars. You're better than me. I like to break down lyrics, as I know you do too. It's one of the things we dive into the lyrics to every single song. But when I read that this is one of 3 songs on the album that he really has no idea what it's about, and he wrote it, I'm like, all right,
there
dude,
you go.
Sounds good. That's going to move us to Roll With It. It was released as a single. This is where the highly publicized chart battle with Blur's single Country House was dubbed the Battle of Brit Pop. Roll With It for Oasis ended up at number 2. Blur's track, Country House, did end up at number 1. They both sold a ton of copies. Yeah. So who really cares at the end of the day? I thought this one was better than the first track.
Really? I liked Hello more than this.
All right. We've been disagreeing more lately, so I like that. It's good.
I still thought this was a good
guitar, good harmonies in this one.
This worked well as a single song because it did have that pleasant melody, really solid vocals.
Yeah, little vocal effects even on there.
Yeah, and it again kind of continued the theme of just you got to roll with the punches that life throws at you, and that'll take us to a song. I think if you've never heard Oasis, you
still probably know this
song,
right? Yeah.
Man. I mean, Wonderwall, one of the most famous songs of the 90s, I'd say, still played on the radio constantly to this day, it seems. So just a legendary tune.
And according to Noel, it describes an imaginary friend who's going to come and save you from yourself. It was their 4th single, US number 8, only US top 40, 2 in UK. It was written for Meg Matthews, his then girlfriend and later wife. However, after they divorced, he claimed that it wasn't about her. So I guess that's what you do, but it was well accepted it was about her. And the name Wonderwall was taken from Wonderwall Music, an album that Harrison made back in the day. Before that, it was titled Wishing Stone, which I don't know. You're a wishing stone. I don't know, I guess, but Wonderwall
flows off the tongue.
It flows better, yeah.
And numerous publications in the UK have done readers polls, critics polls, and sometimes this song gets topped the list for the best song of all time. According
that's
to
very got 2 Grammy nominations. Didn't win any one of them, but huge.
But this song is it kind of falls into that almost, I think, Stairway to Heaven category where people have heard it so much that they just they grow to dislike it.
I agree.
Oversaturation, but honestly, if you do, I think just try to take a step back and look at it as a song. I think it has its reputation for a reason. One of the best melodies of the '90s, or really ever.
Yeah, I agree. See, I think I was sick of this song. But then when you sit here and listen to it, kind of in a critical analysis part. Golly, man, it is absolutely fantastic.
It's just beautiful.
It's beautiful. And I'll tell you, one of the underrated things on this song is the drumming. The drumming is fantastic, man, and it really carries the song in a way. You think about the melodies and the Wonderwall, but that drumming is your constant of just excellence.
And it unlike certain points of the album, the drumming and the guitar doesn't overwhelm Liam's voice here.
Yeah, everything's able to breathe, and that's probably why it's just such a standout even right now as we film this in 2020.
And then that takes us to the first song where Noel is on lead vocals.
Yes.
This ended up being their second UK number 1, and that is Don't Look Back in Anger. And this has a couple interesting tidbits because it has a little bit of a throwback to our guy John Lennon.
Yes.
And not only in the opening piano riff, which Noel said, that's about 50% of Imagine right there.
He just admitted it. He's like, hey.
A little Watching the Wheels in there as well. It also mentions kind of laying in bed with a old bed-in thing. So a lot of cool little throwbacks here, and I think that this song, due to its subject matter, it fit Noel's voice and kind of the passion and just emphasis that he put on this.
Yeah, I think it was a really good song. A couple tidbits on it. Oasis formed in Manchester, England in 1991. The bombing at the Manchester Arena in May of 2017 with Ariana Grande's concert. 22 people died. This song was kind of taken on as an anthem after that in remembrance of them, and so I thought that was a pretty cool thing. But if Wonderwall hadn't come up already, this would be my favorite song so far. This is an awesome song.
This is one of my favorites on the entire record, man. Lots of great lyricism, and the music itself was one of my favorites on the record as well.
That brings us to Hey Now. Continues the motifs of the album, referencing Lennon-esque psychedelia lyrically about escaping life with drug use to the comfort of introversion. It's over 5.5 minutes long, Trey. It's pretty good. I don't think it's great. After those last two songs, it's hard to follow up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was a solid tune. Again, kind of continued some of the themes from Don't Look Back in Anger, where you gotta just accept where you are in the present and not let your past haunt you in a sense. And again, I've mentioned that we're only on song 5, and those themes have been quite prevalent of just living in the moment and keep on keeping on type of deal. And then that takes us now
to, there's 2 of these on here. There's 12 songs on here, but it's really only 10 because there's going to be another one of these later on, but it's untitled. But some people know it as the Swamp Song Excerpt 1. The other one's going to be the Swamp Song Excerpt 2. It's an instrumental. It's only 44 seconds long. I don't really know the purpose of it. I'm sure there is one. It doesn't seem like a segue too much into anything, but I mean, it's fine. I don't really have anything to say about it. Guitar fade in, the drums are pretty good.
Yeah, and then that's going to take us now to the next track. Some might say it was their first #1 in the UK and was inspired by Small Faces or TREY. It was the last Oasis track to feature their original drummer, Tony McCarroll, who was asked to leave the band before the main recording session started. It has a bit of a positive bent with the refrain, "Some might say we will find a brighter day." The some in the song have many thoughts on the afterlife, wealth, and the future. And I think it's up to the listener to discern where exactly they fall in line on that spectrum.
Yeah, one of the things, I did say the last song, the instrumental, really had nothing to do, but it did. The guitars faded into this some, so they did blend them together. Now we come to Cast No Shadow. Noel actually wrote this song on the train on the way to the studio. It was the last one recorded for the album, and he wrote it as a tribute to Richard Ashcraft, who's the lead singer of by then they were done, the Verve, but Oasis and them had toured a lot together, and he knew them. It's a much more chilled out song, piano driven, one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's got that lighter, sweeter sound, especially compared to the heavy.
It's different than anything else on the album so far. It's very stark when it comes on.
Especially coming from, some may say, like a little dichotomy from there. And again, I think some great lyrics in here, especially the line, "Chained to all the places that he never wished to stay, bound with all the weight of all the words he tried to say." Seems to reflect that, we're singers and songwriters.
Yeah.
They have to relive, maybe some of those painful moments that you or I, where we don't write a song and get
you sing
famous.
It over and over and over. Yeah, exactly.
Would have to do. So a unique subject matter, yet still something you could appreciate.
Some nice backing vocals, too, which you don't get a ton of on this album. That brings us to She's Electric. Noel said this was the first song that he wrote for the album. He said, people ask me if it's about Blur. He goes, it's not, like it's inspired by the Kinks or the Small Faces or something.
Yeah, and this one kind of reminded me of a little White Album era Beatles, just with the instrumentation.
It's okay for me.
Yeah, not one of my favorites here. It does have some humor in there because they think that he got the girl pregnant, the mother likes him, but the brother doesn't. So just a fun tune here, but not top tier on this record, but that's a high bar. And then we'll move now to Morning Glory.
Yeah, we're going to come in totally different. We hear some helicopters and stuff. The way we build into this song is quite nice.
Had a little call back to the Beatles yet again in the line, "Tomorrow never knows what it doesn't know too soon." And Morning Glory, I read, was also a slang for LSD, and this song does have a bit of a psychedelic vibe. Some of my favorite guitar licks by Noel are on this track. I just really enjoyed the mix of this too, with Liam's voice kind of added to the ethereal and almost druggy-like nature to it.
Yeah, because it's basically, you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. You do some drugs and you're good and you're on your way. I thought that the instrumentation, the drums are pounding, the guitars are really going in kind of a different way than some of the other songs where we talk about it. It's not just being loud, it's being driven. I like that about the tune. I think that the instrumentation sets the atmosphere and the mood for a song with this subject matter. I know you had told me before you really liked this song.
Yeah.
I think it's just okay for me, but I know you really like it.
No, yeah, I thought it was fantastic, man. And then that takes us to the second little excerpt, or the little instrumental.
Yes.
Before
39 seconds long. And
before we go to the other song I knew besides Wonderwall on here, before we did this review, Champagne Supernova.
Over 7 minutes long.
Yeah, longest track on here, but just what a closer.
What a closer, man. It's a fantastic song. Going into this album, I thought I liked this song better than Wonderwall. Then after coming out of listening to this over and over for the review, I'm not sure which one I like better, which kind of tells you the quality of both of them. Released in 9 UK countries in 1996, US became the second #1 single in the modern rock charts that they had. Only 20 on the Hot 100. Noel said in 2005 he really didn't know what the song was about. He still hadn't made his mind up yet.
Yeah, and I think it's just a great closer that can take on multiple different meanings. Were you missing out on life? Just an epic song. I really thought that Paul Weller's guitar work with Noel was a highlight. The line, "How many special people change, how many lives are living strange," maybe it could be a bit prophetic for how the Gallagher brothers relationship just evolved over time. But what a fantastic closer.
How crazy that this was never released as a single
I
in
know,
the UK,
yeah.
or wasn't at this time, and they may have decided later on to release it, and I didn't come across it in my research. But 12 songs, Trey, but we'll really say there's 10 songs because those 2 instrumentals you can kind of throw out of there, which brings us to our favorite songs. That one,
Yep.
Champagne Supernova, Don't Look Back in Anger,
That's mine.
obviously Wonderwall, and Cast No Shadow.
I'm gonna say Morning Glory instead of Cast No Shadow for me, but I'll keep your other 3. And now we'll move on to the overall score of the record. This album has so much hype surrounding it.
It does.
One of the most popular and acclaimed records of the 90s, and especially kind of seen as, I would think, as kind of the height of the Britpop.
Yeah, I would think so as well, yeah.
Not knowing too much about Oasis besides just, the biggest hits, it was fun to see a record live up to the hype like this record did. I definitely enjoyed it. It has a sound that it still holds up as we're here. This record's 25 years old, which is kind of wild.
Man, I'm getting old because I remember this thing very well.
But it holds up well. A lot of people will probably point to the production as being a big negative, and that they're valid, I think, in that, because it is a bit messy. It's very loud. I kind of thought it added a little charm to the record though, but I could see that going either way. But all that to say, I thought it was great. I'm going in 8.5 on this.
Okay, I have a lot of the same thoughts you do. It is very loud. It's over 50 minutes long, right? So if you put on those headphones, like, it doesn't really get, at first I was like, the first couple songs, I'm like, man, this is going to get old for 50 minutes. Like, it's just so loud. And then of course we go into Wonderwall, and then it just kind of really takes off.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a detriment, but I do think you got to be in a certain mood to listen to this. But I'm right there with you. I'm going to give it an 8.25. It is an incredibly consistent album.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a bad song on here, and there's some real standouts. So just tremendous.
Oh, for sure. And unlike some of the music we review on here, like, this is something I think you could just play in the car with people who don't even like music per se, and they're like, oh, this is catchy, this sounds good. So I think it can appeal to both, big time music nerds and also just just regular people.
Yeah, we mentioned at the start, about how they were not getting along, but in the studio went greatly. And this parallel, I know they like to compare themselves to the Beatles, but this does parallel with a lot of the Beatles' later stuff, and the fact that they weren't getting along, yet they get in the studio and they just produce fantastic stuff. Of course, the Gallagher brothers couldn't keep it together nearly long enough to get any sort of, long-term epic reputation like the lads from Liverpool, but still, really glad you brought this to us, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew, and let us know in the comments below what you think of this record. Do you love it? Do you think it's overrated? What are your thoughts on Oasis in general? Love to hear them in the comments.
I think our UK friends will have a lot to say. They're going to know a lot more about this than we do.
Yeah, for sure. Fun one to do, and until next time, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and we will see ya.